Aishmai Sitahi Croeso I Chris Dowie, what is cracking, ladies, gents, boys and girls? Today we have a spooktacular Halloween special. That's right, today we are talking about Blood of the Zombies. This book was written by Ian Livingstone. The artwork inside was illustrated by Kevin Crossley, and the front cover was by Greg Staples. So, we've got a cracking author and fantastic illustrators or graphic designers, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, let's get into the book. Now, Blood of the Zombies opens up to a fantastic foreword written by Ian Livingstone himself. He mentions how he initially wanted to write something connected to the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, but opted out of doing so as he didn't want to work on it without Steve Jackson. So he eventually found himself writing a game book set in a contemporary setting that involved zombies, as zombies are popular within gaming, and Ian Livingstone was he was dabbling in gaming at the time. This is a fantastic choice. The gameplay in the background will be from Vanguard Zombies, just to keep it on theme, and it's also because I love zombies, and zombies, sort of zombie-like entities, are sort of present in the book that I've written myself. So, onto the book. You've been studying mythological creatures in Bolingbroke University, no, Bolingbroke College, and you decide to travel through southern Europe to hunt for traces of mythical creatures. This really sets the tone. It alludes to the swathes of fantastical beasts we've encountered over the years, whilst following new and old entries into the Fighting Fantasy library. Eventually, you find yourself being duped by an elderly man that promises to take you to a tomb belonging to a long-deceased vampire, and you're taken prisoner by 3 thugs, who then decide to take you to a castle to be sold as a slave, or maybe a little bit worse. Sounds like your typical night out here, but it's where the story picks up. You're given control over your character, and your first encounter is with Otto. He's a wretched old drunk who enjoys bringing you dodgy stew, occasionally a slice of equally dodgy bread, and stale coffee that is just sort of placed out of reach as you're chained to the walls in what's essentially a dungeon of a medieval castle. Otto stands out to me not only because he's the first character that you actually get to sort of engage with yourself, but there's a surprising amount of character development that'll happen over the next 2 references that reveals him to be more or less a prisoner himself. Usually I'd have expected Otto to be a one-off character that you slay and forget about within 4 references, but no, they actually did him quite well. You set off into the castle, and eventually you find yourself getting a little bit of an explanation about what's happening. In summary, Gringrich Ur, he's the big bad guy. He's hoping to take over the world with a zombie army, and the whole operation has involved kidnapping physically weak people, injecting them with a gene, and turning them into zombies. You find out that you've been held prisoner in the hopes that you become weak enough to be turned into a zombie. Now this is pretty cool, pretty short-sighted, because what's an army of zombies gonna do? But if you're reading the book, you find out that these zombies are, they're a little less traditional, I suppose would be the right word. Either way, let's keep going. After spending some time walking through the corridors, investigating various rooms, and hopefully slaying your first few zombies, you quickly find that weapons are surprisingly easy to come by, and that you'll probably need a firearm to stand a reasonable chance against the undead hordes of Gingrich. Yeah. Now, this is because zombies, they only take 1 point of damage, and the way that combat has been done in this book is that you'll get like a crowbar, and it'll do 1d6 plus 1 damage, which means that you roll a dice, and it might land a 5, and then with the plus 1 modifier, you get a 6. And then if you're up against a horde of maybe like 4 zombies, you will slay them all, you'll win the day, bada bing, bada boom. Now you might be thinking, well, that makes combat sound really fun, really easy. It is, and it isn't. One hand, it is quite fun, it is quite easy, but a lot of times you'll find that zombies somehow get the pounce on you and they'll stab you before the engagement actually takes place. So you're taking some guaranteed damage. Now this is quite annoying, and it makes the story quite luck-based, I suppose. But let's get back into it. Eventually, you'll probably find yourself in the sewers. Now the sewers are pretty fun, and you got open wounds on your wrists from the chains, so it's quite weird. Why would you jump into a sewers and get like all filth in your wrist wounds? But it doesn't address that, because who wants to think about that? Who wants to think about getting human fecal matter inside of your wounds? That's not very fun, that's not very cash money. So what actually happens? Well, it's just sort of a sewer. You fight a bunch of rats. And there's zombies down there. You know, you have to have a sewer level in a zombie game. It feels like a staple in Resident Evil. And I mean, in the latest entry, Resident Evil 8, I suppose you go into dungeons. I can't remember if you actually go into a sewer. But you go into sort of like a castle sewer. So that's there. But eventually you will find yourself outside. Now, by this time, it becomes apparent that the zombies can actually use weapons. Whether it be like the arm of a chair, not the leg of a chair, an axe, or a grenade. The zombies are always undying to put an end to your run. Unfortunately, by this time, you've likely slayed an entire room of dogs. Now, dogs, right, I get that they're enemies. I get that they could be enemies in a fantasy setting. I just don't like killing dogs in games. Call me weird. I'm not a member of PETA, but I just don't like it. I don't like it. It seems weird, especially in a setting because like this is essentially a zombie apocalypse. I say essentially a zombie apocalypse. It's a relative zombie apocalypse. Your immediate vicinity is an apocalyptic scenario. So why is there a room of dogs just vibing? I don't know. It bothers me, but that is just me. But ultimately, what you're going to find is that this book does boil down to being another dungeon crawler type adventure, where you just find yourself navigating the castle. You will be going down a bunch of T-junctions, entering room and just sort of stealing anything that isn't bolted down. And obviously killing zombies. Towards the end of the book, things do pick up, they get quite exciting, you meet a bunch of friendly faces. I say friendly faces, I don't know, you're fairly neutral with them. You meet a bunch of faces that aren't going to kill you on sight. And then it's pretty cool. There's a minigun. There's a minigun? Is it a minigun? I don't know. It's a 50 cal sort of thing. It's a Browning, I think they call it. It's a sort of an encounter where you just mow down swathes of enemy. That's pretty cool. It's like an endgame boss level. It's pretty awesome. I quite enjoyed it. And one of my favourite encounters does have to be Amy. There's not much to her, but yeah, she's just sort of there and she's not trying to kill you, and there's a tiny bit of backstory that doesn't really do much. You sort of learn it from reading her diary, which she's totally cool about, which is pretty nice. But yeah, she's not really a side character, but you are the main character, so it doesn't matter. One thing that does strike me odd is like there's a weird juxtaposition when you have a group of scientists acting like nothing's happened. You encounter them, and if you got the right stuff, you can dupe them into thinking you're one of them, and then they'll be like, alright, let's go have some food, let's go to the cafeteria, get some food. And it's weird because it's a zombie apocalypse type situation within this castle, and there's just this weird juxtaposition where people are just acting like it's everyday life as if they don't know. Maybe they don't know, but it's just weird to me. If you get what I mean. You know, everything's going to hell around them. But, you know, they're just sort of like NPCing around, not really taking that in. Either way, your journey, your adventure will come to an end, and the 400th reference isn't actually the final reference. You absolutely need to have slain absolutely every single zombie in this book, otherwise you will fail, and you've just lost the game. Now, if you're like me, and you've been doing it, maybe it says it in the combat to actually count down all the zombies you've been slaying. I just didn't, so I had to go back and do it again. But I will post that reference up. I will post the amount of numbers. I'll put it on the screen flash or something like that, just in case, because I went online. I was like, do I really have to do this again? And then I couldn't find like a cheeky little answer, so I did it again. And it was really annoying. But unless you kill all the zombies, you can't actually win. It's a game over. But yeah, you know, the book is actually pretty good. It felt like a retro zombie shooter, similar to the House of the Dead, and I think that's something that should be commended. Weapons, they do get a bit of control. Grenades are literally everywhere, but there comes a point where you are required to use them. There's an insane amount of unavoidable damage, which I alluded to earlier, so you're constantly jumping off stuff and rolling your ankle. If there's ever an explosion, you just seem to take like shrapnel to the leg, and you get stabbed a lot by zombies who are undoubtedly stinking, groaning, shuffling, but you don't. They sneak up on you somehow, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because it comes down to luck, and there's never a test your luck kind of role. It's annoying, but it is what it is. You know, the book could have been done either two ways. I feel it could have been done how it was, and then it could have been like a dungeon crawler where you have to find maybe like 3 vials, put them all together at the end to create a cure that stops other zombies. You know, the way it's done, pretty good. I enjoyed it, you know. But, you know, it's just something that I thought, you know, it's something I thought about whilst writing this script. Can I recommend it? Yeah. If you can get it for a reasonable price, go for it. Or if it's in a charity shop, or if I don't know. If you can get it. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good read. It's a nice zombie-rific. I loved it, to be honest. And that's why I'm giving it a solid 4 out of 5, because on one hand, it wasn't perfect, but it's actually pretty dang good. So that's about it, yeah. Five really, really good book. Would I recommend getting it? Absolutely, if you can. And at the end of the day, it's Final Fantasy. It's in its own bracket of being good. You know, it's just good, and I really liked it. And it's about zombies in a cool setting, and the book's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's about it for the cheeky chat or the review, if you want to call it that. The book is actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. So yeah. I haven't done this in a while. I haven't done this in a long while. You know, I wanted to do this on Halloween though, just because you know it's a Halloween thing, and I don't normally do anything on Halloween. I don't normally like get to celebrate it because I work in hospitality, so that is really, really quite spectacular. But yeah. So before I go, I wanted to ask something of ask some of you guys. I wanted to ask you guys something. You know, I've written a book. You know, I mentioned it in the video. It's on my channel. So yeah, I was wondering if anyone would be interested in maybe reading like Final Fantasy inspired literature. Maybe it'd just be like fan fiction. I'll just put it on Wattpad and do like a chapter a week, where maybe there's a story set in Alonsia, and you know it's just a different kind of storytelling. Because I love Final Fantasy, but I just can't get enough of it, and I'd be totally willing to, I suppose, write my own. So yeah, what I'm saying is, would you guys be interested in reading maybe like literature set in Alonsia, where you may be following an adventurer going through, I don't know, the different towns, fighting different creatures, so on and so forth, and there'd be like a weekly update with a new chapter. So if you've gotten this far, feel free to leave it in the comments. Feel free to leave your thoughts, your feelings, your whatevers in the comments, and I'll be happy to read them. But without further ado, guys, take care. Have a lovely Halloween. Hopefully it's nice and spooky. Hopefully you guys sit there, watch your horror films, and thoroughly enjoy. But for me, I've got to go. So take care, live, laugh, love. And thanks for watching. Ta-ra.